Hello, and welcome back to Satisfactory. When we left off, I was working out how I was going to build my power plant after we unlocked a whole bunch of stuff. Since then, I've actually watched a little bit of video on advanced designs, which we won't get into because I haven't unlocked the stuff necessary for them yet. We'll see some neat stuff coming up in our tiers, really. But we also came up with the fact I need a lot of motors. I mean, a lot of motors. Not just for the milestones, but for building. I thought, well, let's build motors in this base. This is the Western Desert base here. So up here in the area with the 4 pure iron nodes, we've got encased industrial beams being built, which are our raw material for the Mark IV belts and lifters, which I'm going to use exclusively from now on. There is no point in using Mark I, II, and III, but I can use as many Mark IVs as I like. Getting 5 of them every 2 seconds. And that's just how fast they're being uploaded. Because this is a persistent server, I can always head up to that base up there that I'm pointing at and hit the boxes and grab a whole bunch if I start running low and I'm building too fast for the uploaders. So what do we have down here? I started working out a specific base. I thought, wait a minute, let's set this up to be a little more of a utility. So what I did instead was I made a generic blueprint for smelting. And some of my miners are turning out 120 a minute, and some of them are turning out 240 a minute. So I thought, let's build this guy. We've got 8 miners, 8 smelters. I have an input over here for 120, input here for 120. And all the belt wiggling is inside so that we deliver to these smelters. And it merges everything out to one belt with 240 ingots per minute. And I just plumped that down. I did 3 of those for iron. I've got 1 more over there for copper. And let's take a look. I'm going to uncap it and show how it works. This is the 2x4 smelter. Really, oh. Blueprint. Okay, I've been trying to make generic versions, and I guess I just forgot to change the icon. We're going to select icon. My thought was we have a lot of things we build that are all take these inputs to these machines and collect the outputs. So I thought, well, if I do 1 blueprint for each kind of machine, I can plop them down, and all I have to do after I plop it down is run up here and set the recipe. So 1 and done. Bump, bump, bump. I've got all of those guys doing the smelting. We've got 6 Mark II miners on iron nodes here that are giving us 120 per minute. Because everything is now Mark IV belts, so we've got normal nodes of iron. I could rework the area up above to use these. I would just have to take my pure and split. Probably what I would do is make a variant of this blueprint that has a splitter in one corner. It's actually, I believe the blueprint that I have is something like that. I think internally it doesn't use Mark IV belts, but I could do a version of this that uses Mark IV belts and takes all its input from one corner. How does this work? You've seen the 4 smelters. These 2 are as close together as they normally sit, so they're adjacent to each other by the adjacency rules in the game. And I believe I have the option set that says automatically keep them space. There's a maintain clearance option that I'm looking for here. Gameplay. I think I'm going to turn on one click. No, I'm forming muscle memory again in the game, and I might as well just leave it alone. Let's see. Anyway, if you're interested, you can find it. There's a tooltip that if you put two machines down, you have that machine there, if I put another one down, it will automatically maintain positioning. I think you have to hold down control to get it to work right. Either that or I've got it turned off. See, we cannot place it where it's red. We can place it where it's yellow sometimes. Depends on the machine. These machines, that's as close as they get normally. And that's, anyway, that's the spacing that I used between these pairs. These guys, I winded it out by one additional unit, just so I would have a nice place to walk. There's no real reason for that. You could, in fact, spread these out so they're evenly spaced, one per, but I that with them. And let's peel this up. Let's take this up as well. So how I placed the holes, so the hole is placed one end. So in theory, it could be this location. It can't go any further out than that and stay inside the machine here. But if you put it here, it can't fit a splitter or a merger flipped onto the vertical if it's going back and forth. I pulled it back by one, okay, which means that any one of these could host a merger where we're entering it from the side. And that's what I want. Placement of these guys is kind of flexible. You notice that they were pressed in a little bit. I'm going to set this up as a hologram so we can move it back and forth. If you just drag the lifter out of here, that hole represents where the vertical would go through the ground. Okay. You can move it back like that, and lifter has a little bellows on it. You see the bellows there? That bellows is now buried inside. Move it to there, then half of this hood goes inside. It looks kind of nice. It's kind of arched in. And if you put all the way in, all you see here on the end is the vertical plate with a little bit of curve at the top comes in. So you can go all the way from there to out to there. So if we move it all the way back, in theory, this hole would move all the way back, tucked underneath the chin. So that is as close. It's there. You've got that blank piece of metal. Back a little bit, you've got kind of the half the hood out. There's the whole hood, and there's the hood and some bellows. It's that far, I don't think it automatically connects. I think that far you require a belt. So you can see that there's a lot of leeway in where you put the hole. That hole could go all the way back here. So I like to leave myself a little bit of space. That allows me to do some belt work under the metal here. Let's pull up our flooring so we can see what's going on underneath. This is going to look a bit chaotic. Can I stand on top of something, get a little more of a dive? So our inputs come in from over there. take a look at the input. Oh, whoa! So our input comes in from over there. You'll notice that the belt is sunk into the floor. That's because I placed the belt, and then I placed a floor, raised the floor by a meter from where it was when the belt was placed. Tier 1, 2, somewhat to a certain extent Tier 3, you get a lot of Z fighting between the surface of the belt and the floor. At Tier 4, this looks pretty good. We still have these lines. I think if we change the materials, that's how it would look with an asphalt floor. So the asphalt shows through. Concrete is one of my favorites for building on top of, just because of the guidelines. And again, the concrete sticks up enough. And we have grip metal that I like to use for walkways. Grip metal is below. But this is mainly for what it looks like when I'm looking up from the bottom at these guys. And the nice blue ceiling is cool. If I made these like that, having grip metal on the ceiling doesn't make a lot of sense unless you've got magnetic boots. Asphalt ceilings are just, well, I may do asphalt ceilings after I get the ability to put signs up that I can turn into lights. Till then, our nice little blue color is good. But we leave our inner. Anyway, back to this. Now, apparently, Z fighting, I was wrong. By changing the texture on that, I have now raised it to where it's not. But we don't get inside this area. So there's our belt. You can see the belt work better if I get rid of the inner. Come in. And we come around here to make this. Let's take it the other way. Here's where we're providing the input to the machines. So they pull it up from below, and they want a splitter here that they can both take input from. Evenly split some input, and over there evenly split some input. We bring the belts out to here where we evenly split some input. And there it just goes all the way around and tucks in there. So our input is evenly split 4 ways. And over here it's just exactly the same thing. Output, very similar. I come down, I'm going immediately into a merger. This guy comes down and gets routed to the merger. I was lazy when I built this. Normally I would put my mergers over more toward the center. I could probably clip them to the bottom of the center guy. I didn't think of that. Trying to, can't say minimize clipping. I don't worry about clipping too much in this underfloor area, but trying to keep it relatively clear so I can at least look at things. So if these two come down, they merge. And the other side, these two machines come down and merge. And they go to this merger. So this merger is an even balance of the output of 4 machines. Ditto over here. These two machines come together and evenly merge with these two machines. So 4 machines, 4 machines. These are 4 machines here and 4 machines here. They all come into this guy. So now the problem is, how do I snake the output from here? It turns out that I can kind of bring it out diagonally. I'm not happy with this routing. Trick is to get this to route without just rashly clipping halfway through everything on the way. I brought it out a little bit, and I get a little clipping there, a little clipping there. I may have to go out and diagonal and over and diagonal and over or something. Pooey. Pooey pooey. Anyway, so that provides the output. The only reason I have a merger there is because this is a merger here. And I wanted to get a nice straight diagonal, so I put a merger there, and then I drew the diagonal in, and it clipped the hell out of that. So I pointed it out a little bit, and it worked, and I didn't take away the merger. A lot of this design, in the end, when you're buttoning it all up at the end, comes down to it's working, leave it alone. You can go back and refine it a little bit from time to time, open up a prior blueprint, tweak it around a little bit, refine it. By the time you get to the end of the game, you've probably done a really good job of refining your blueprints. In your next game, you may pull in the same blueprint. As of 1.0, I got rid of my blueprint library, so you're seeing this generated for the first time here, Gen 4. That handles the smelting. We also have constructors over there. Let's pull up our constructor stuff. Do not save blueprint. I've pulled it apart. Go to the blueprint designer, and this is a very similar design. Constructors are slightly wider, and the first use I made of this was for copper wire. Although I was also looking at using it for concrete. So I ended up thinking, what if I just put 6? What if I just put 6 instead of 8? And that worked out very well. I kind of like it, given how easy it is to just plop it in place. Actually, let's not get rid of the top quite. I am going to get rid of some film a bit. Just so we can see what's going on down here. So up top, we have our 6 constructors, which are unprogrammed. Placement of the holes, very similar concerns. I have this hole as close to the edge as I want it, just 1 meter away. You can actually place it down at the last place that it will stay inside, and then back it off by 1. Put the constructor in place, and you figure out where you want your nose to come down, and you may tweak that back and forth a bit. I tend to put down 1 constructor and put 2 of the holes down. One saying I could be this far to the left, and the other one saying, oh, I could be this far to the right. And then I start working down below. Let's get rid of stuff on top. It's going to get rid of all of these guys. I'm not going to get rid of the through holes. The through holes are an important marker for when things happen. There we go. And now let's get rid of the top floor completely so we can see down inside. And we can get rid of the remains of the underfloor. This is the tight sandwich. So again, it's Z fighting with the belts. It looks good most of the time. When you drop the blueprint in place, I've generally, when I go inside, the belts look okay. But again, with the sandwich layers, you often never go inside again. So here's the underground. Remember, up above, we were taking our inputs from the walls. Outputs are going in the center. And in this case, I want a single input coming in. And I want to split it evenly among the 6. But in this case, I'm using a smart splitter, so my overflow goes out the right. So this will take as much of the input as it can eat, convert it into output, and then pass along anything it doesn't out that way. This is convenient for doing things like you're making a lot of wire and you want to keep 6 machines making cable, but you have the remainder of the wire that goes back out to a box, and and out to an output somewhere. Maybe you upload it to the depot, and in the end, eventually you have overflow being routed to a sink, which keeps your entire factory crunching along because you're now sinking all of the intermediate products that you're not using. One way of doing it. So single input with the overflow output. We split. The splitters on both sides are kind of mirror images of each other. We come sliding in here. This guy splits. It is clipped to the lifter here. And the other two outputs go up. Other ones. So we're using the 1 to 3 split. Much simpler than the 1 to 4. On the other side for the merger, notice I'm accepting that my belts sometimes shimmy by a meter. Output here feeds in, output here feeds in, and our downspout feeds in. These all come together here. Remember what I was saying about dynamically deciding where to put the holes? In the end, what I did was I put down a merger in the middle. I said, well, I want the next mergers to be next to it. Up. And then that dictated where this hole went. Those three come together, come into the merger. These three coming together and go into this merger. They feed into here, and now I have the even merge of the output of 6 machines, which heads out the back. So inputs in the front, overflows to the side, and outputs in the back. And we can use this for any recipe where we have a constructor. Constructors always have exactly one input and exactly one output. Clear the designer. I've taken to habitually clearing the designer before I wander off because, I've had problems where I will come back to a blueprint designer and it will have a different blueprint in it. And sometimes if the old blueprint had something precious in it, I fortunately haven't lost any of my spheres, but I have lost some AI limiters. And I only had a few of them at the time, and I lost one. It's like, ah! So I always pull it up and say, well, do I have all my AI limiters? It always takes me a moment to scan through, and there I have 11 AI limiters. So that's my current stock. I can make more. But they aren't automated, which means I have to sit there and make them. Fortunately, I only use AI limiters when I'm making my smart splitters. I don't use too many of those. Sometimes one will be in a corner of the constructors. I have been known to hop on this and go in and say, well, I don't really need a smart splitter there. I'm going to change it to a normal splitter. Problem with the Mark IV belt is when you're crouched, it's hard to walk the other way on them. So if you're using the belt holes to get in and out of the underfloor, which I just did, sometimes it's better to walk around to an output. Anyway, there's our constructors. Put it in place. All you have to do is go up to the top and program the machines. Then you hook up the input and the output, and you maybe route the overflow somewhere and connect up the power. In this case, we have a full box of all of this stuff because this basically kept running while I went out for a walk. So we now have plates, iron plates, and iron rods, and these screws I made with the Constructor recipe for cast screws. So ingots into screws. Just a nice little recipe. For doing this is like a Factorio mall. It doesn't have to run at full speed. I want it to run fast because these are eventually going to feed into assemblers for building things like rotors and stators and motors soon. So I need speed. I come over here and why is he red? So over at copper, I've actually already routed my copper outputs onto belts. So we have 2 normal copper nodes over here, which I have tapped. And they are being smelted. And going on here? Oh, jeez. Everybody's turned off because I picked up my copper smelter because I wanted to replace it with the generic smelter, and I completely forgot to put it back down. Is Rick? So my output needs to be back there. Let's put down the copper smelter. But everybody has completed their tasks. On the other hand, before we do that, I've got some bone to pick with you. You didn't have power attached to your upper story. And because of that, you were not turning out output from above. Your output from below has exhausted. He exhausted his input. But what I did here was I have had the smelter. Put it back in a moment. Came out here and it split two ways. This is just the normal constructor, and I dropped it down twice. The upper one is actually a variant, a second story variant. Actually I did these before I did the generic ones, so I will probably rebuild these blueprints, tear out where I've used them and plop in this belt here. This is first because it's first floor. I need to do the variant for second floor before I do that. The first floor is as I showed you. The second floor is the same, except that this thing on the right becomes just a normal, instead of being a smart splitter here, which says send the overflow to the right and then split forward and back, forward and left. This is going to be a normal splitter taking from the right and just splitting evenly between the two sides. So this doesn't have an overflow. This is great for when you're stacking up a whole bunch of floors building the same thing, and you want the input back up out of the stack. Instead of forwarding the overflow, you just stop it. So the lift here would slow down and stop. That saves you from pulling it back down, but it does mean that if you want to take the overflow from this building, you need to have it. But that is a good thing because now I can take one belt, I can split it two ways, and he will not continue to take half of my resources if he's just dumping them in a bin somewhere. This is where you don't want a overflow output. So these two are making upper sheets. Let's go guy over on the left. These two, same thing. There's a first floor and a second floor variant. These are all configured to make wire. So I'm using copper wire here. Elsewhere in my factory, I'm doing a lot of iron wire. In this case, I am processing copper, so I use copper to make copper wire, and we've got it. And over here, we are making cable. So coming out of the copper wire here, we bring our output from the top down and from the left in, and that feeds into this merger, which goes onward. I have, that is ugly. Top. I need to double think whether I want to use that kind of a merge or not. It's great if you have a collar up there and if you have a floor on top, but if we just packing it on the bottom, it's kind of... The reason why I have a box out here is because I also had a whole bunch of other wire on me and in a box. I had a prior factory that was building wire. So I tossed it all in here so it could feed the wire into this and pass it along the same chain. Anyway, so we merged the output of 2 floors, which is 12 total machines making wire. It goes over here. This is a normal splitter. Half of our wire is going into the box until the box is full, at which point it'll back up. The other half of the wire is going into my cable machine. And again, that's going to just back up when it's done. So if I have a full box of cable, full box of wire, and the cable machine is stopped, we'll stop making wire, and the rest of our copper ingots will be available for sheets, and vice versa. We're done making sheets. If we're full of sheets, then all of our copper can go. Same layout. Okay. Take our input, goes through these guys. We are splitting some of it up above. I sometimes will leave this as a smart splitter, so we only send the overflow above, or I may go in from time to time and say, well, I don't need this to be a smart splitter. I'm going to split it half and half, so that, the upper floor will always handle half of our output, which is fine. It doesn't really matter. And our outputs, cable up. It's here. So over on this corner, cable up PL machines output, and they get merged. They get dumped in a box. So always have a box. That way I can come over and I can say, well, I need some cable. And there's some cable there. Not a lot. I mean, some cable, probably enough for me to get some stuff done if I have any problems or not uploading fast enough to the depot. I can always go over here, and there's always at least a couple of stacks. And the output of the box I can send along here. So again, guys grabbing from these don't need to worry about how fast we're making it if they are bursty. If they are a mall, for example, where we're building a few things and then stopping, we can draw at maximum rate, keep ourselves fed until we have produced all that we need to produce. And of course, if you actually manage to empty the system out, then you would we'd have to wait a while. But again, this is a persistent server, which means that every night when I go to bed, I'm going to wake up in the morning and all of my boxes are going to be full. Kind of nice. So we've got our 3 belts here of our copper products. I have not yet belted up our iron products, because our next step is to figure out what to do with all of these. And I think our next steps are going to be to work on the assemblers. Oh, let's see. If there's anything here that I need to make. We've got rods, we've got screws, we've got plates, we've got copper sheets, we've got iron pipe. I think I'm making iron pipe. I'm pretty sure I'm making iron pipe. I am not making iron pipe. I had intended to make iron pipe and I made screws instead. I am going to... Yes, I need iron pipe and I don't need screws. So I'll relocate these screws in a moment. Let's start off by changing recipes. These are going to make iron pipe. Of course, pasting it twice to make absolutely sure that I've got it done. I need to drain out all of my screws somewhere. I am going to put the screws all the way over here. Centered on that. It's not. It's actually set this up using my foundation bits. There. Foundation industrial storage. That's screws. And I need to put their level on there. I'm going to double the rate. Quick. Logistics. Stackable conveyor poles. Off center. Okay. Well, I haven't been using stackable conveyor poles much in this place yet. Not used to how they line with the Okay, so we are, I believe that means we've drained all of our screws out of that machine, so we'll stop him. That's not going to move it. If these stacks are at 500. I'm going to run back and forth screws. Give me a second. And I have a bunch of crap that needs to be dumped in. Sink as well. This is going to be for sinking things. What else do I want to sink? I think it's just that. Yeah. Is a full industrial box. And come grab from them when we screw. I am no longer going to automate screws here. Friendship with screws ended. Best friend is now pipe. Going to send all of the screws. 2 stacks. Here, where we're going to, wait a minute. What's that machine? Yeah, I could have just put them in there. Let's do that. Box, I didn't leave a box. I tend to throw up sinks casually. Sort. Don't need those. Don't need those except for stacks. Got screws there. It's our normal stuff we carry on us. Go back looking through this, make sure I've got the stuff. Plates and rods are done. We have a big box of screws, and we have, I believe somebody has screws supplying to the depot, but at 30 screws per minute, most screw requirements are going to be go to the big box. We have copper sheets, we have pipes, wire and cable are done. Reanimated SAM is being supplied from the other place. Quick wire, I believe we have going. We have not yet done concrete, which we can use our existing ore for. Don't have quartz yet. Looks like we just need to put down one more, or maybe a stack of 2 more to handle the concrete. We have stone over here. I hadn't really planned on where we were going to put this. think all things considered, I'm not going to worry about concrete because we do have concrete up north of here. So while we do have a concrete node in this base, and we could automate it with the constructors, I'm going to hold off on that. I think our next step here is to put together a generic assembly floor, assemblers. Question is, how many assemblers can I fit in that space? We drop a little bit of a nice high viewpoint. So my goals here, not necessarily to put as many as possible in. Realize that the has where it isn't shiny, I see those lines, and where it is shiny, we can see the midpoint lines. I wonder, that's a reflection. Yeah, because you see over here dimmer. They exist everywhere. It's just how it catches the light as to which ones show up. Cool. So that's the size of the assemblers. I believe they can go 3 across. They can go 4 across. Let's take a look. I put one absolutely in the corner. Go 3 across, 3.5 across. Okay. And if I put it in the corner this way, can't go fore and aft. Actually overlapping the blueprint is, I can't quite get them fore and aft. I may be able to get them fore and aft if I pull it correct. Let's do hologram. I'm going to do a control. There we go. I'm going to go up here. Control right nudge. So in theory, we could get them forward and aft if we nudge it and move it by 0.5 meter. But I don't think I want to do that. So the layout I'm going to end up with is going to be 3 of them left to right. Actually, 3 of them, yeah, so if our inputs are from that direction, to come in, they're going to come up along a line here so we can get some on the right and some on the left, and then our outputs are going to come out probably back in the corner there. Makes sense? Yeah, and we can even separate them a bit if we wanted to. I could literally center the assembler so that the spaces are evenly, the gaps around them, it's the same in the middle as on the sides. Or we could put 3 of them. Let's put 3 of them. I'm going to put one dead center. I'll put the other ones as far to the edges as I can. That's the plan. Now, most of the recipes that I do, I only need 1 assembler or 2. And if we happen to have a situation where 2 things I want to build have the same inputs, I can put them both on the same floor. Do I have anything that I want to build where I will be putting down 3 assemblers? That's the question. If the answer to that is no, I'll just put 2 in and we'll be done. So, let's see. Iron plates, we've got Guys that take screws are kind of a no-no. So I'm not automating screws out of my area, but stitched iron plates are one of my favorites. Can grab some wire and some plates, and we're done. Steeled frame, probably pretty good because we're going to have a lot of pipe. So take some stitched iron plates, 2 stitched iron plates, and 10 every minute. Modular frames are 3 and 12 every. So steeled frame, I think, is a good one. We'll probably be using stitched iron plates and steeled frames to make the modular frames. We have an entire factory building encased iron pipe. That. I don't think I need to automate the AI limiters. I will have to think about automating circuit board. Probably won't. Okay, rotors. How do we want to build rotors? We've got the stock that uses screws. We can use copper sheets and screws, or we can use wire and pipe. So we're going to use steel rotors. Yay, steel rotors. I'm going to start making some notes on this. Excuse me while I bring up an editor real quick. Assemblers. Recipes I want to include in desert. Let's start from the top and just run through these real quick. So stitched iron plate. Which takes iron plate, wire. Steeled frame. I don't need to have this done down here. We're going to skip the steel rotors. Takes pipe. Wire. So far, I'm not seeing things that use the same inputs. Stator. Oh. Am I in luck? Stator takes pipe plus wire. Stator. So I could do, on one floor, I could keep steel rotors and stators together. They're both 12 seconds per output. Oh, that's beautiful. Hold on, 12 seconds per output. What do I need for motors? Every 12 seconds I need 2, so 2 of these and 2 of these, needing 1 of those. Or 1 of those and 1 of those, needing a motor. So we can either do this as a building making rotors and a building making stators and a building making rotors, or I could set up a single blueprint that takes in pipe and wire and turns out motors at 1 per 24 seconds. Just duplicate that thing up into the sky as many times as I want until I've got all of the inputs and all the outputs. I'll have to have probably a little 1-by-1 blueprint that routes the outputs up, or routes the inputs going up and merges all the outputs coming down at each level. I'm going to cut the recording and I'm going to design a blueprint, which is my motor factory, because I have ideas and I think I'm going to put 2 floors and 5 assemblers in one blueprint, and we're just going to make it so that it is cascadable upwards and sideways. I will see you when that is done.